Hi everyone. Today I just thought I'd touch on journaling a little bit. It's been a part of my life off and on. I'm nearly 60, so I've tried a few things, and you have your seasons. Well, for the most recent Mother's Day I got a lovely gift from my children. Where is it? And it was The Artist's Way. And I've seen on YouTube there's quite a lot of other people reading this awesome book. And it really has just got me back into a bit of journaling in the morning. So what the author suggests is you do what she calls morning pages. So when I wake up in the morning, one of the first things I do is get my notebook out. So this is my very simple and cheap journal for the moment. I've got quite a selection. I'll show you my collection of journals later. But yeah, have some paper. I have my book on my table where I'm going to have a cup of tea, have a pen, and I just jot down things I'm feeling first thing in the morning, things I'm thinking about. It's a bit of a brain dump, really. But I find it gets me in quite a positive frame of mind. I don't like writing down a lot of negative stuff. I don't know, it's just something about writing it down. It makes it a little bit too permanent, and who wants sad days to stick around for too long? So what I do is try and build myself up every morning and think of something good that's in my mind, something to look forward to. I actually used to have a lot of journals when I was young, and I've thrown them out since because I just felt that they were records of sad times. They were sad times. I'm not in denial about that, but just having them recorded and thinking, when I pass, I don't want my children to read about all the sad times and for that to be my legacy. So now I'd much prefer to write about my dreams and goals and record happy moments, or just moments, not just stick to an everyday account of the season I'm in. Thankfully, I'm in a happy, positive season at the moment. So yeah, my day starts with a bit of reading. I've got prayer journals, encouragement that I always look to. They don't take very long to read, but just gets me focused on being positive in my day. I've got friends that give me books. So this is an interesting one. I've just started another one on prayer, and I'm looking forward to getting into that. I haven't got too far into that one yet. And someone thought I could do some help on the ruthless elimination of hurry. So we'll see what I get out of that. And of course, I'm reading through the letters of Rachel Henning at the moment. So I've got plenty to be reading. And when I'm finished chatting about journals, we'll get into a reading from a letter from Rachel. She actually mentions in the letter today, she's writing to Annie, and she mentions a common acquaintance of theirs who has a standout journal. So Victorian journals were quite different. Maybe not so different. I think every generation has their style. I know the young girls, my daughters, I'll call them young girls, they're in their late 30s. They journal with pictures. They like to draw, and they might put stickers and things like that. So that kind of visual art diary and journaling combined is a bit of a fashionable thing to do at the moment. But yeah, the Victorian ladies, they would do lovely sketches, some botanical, themed sketches, or just sketches from a scene in their drawing room of their family, of a landscape that they're in, as well as, an account of their day. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm actually working on a journal of my own. I'll go and get that for you. Hang on a sec. A lovely client of mine from the community work that I've been doing over the past years gifted me this beautiful, I think they call it a junk journal, and she prepared this for me. So all blank pages, and there's some little inspirational poems, but I've started doing my own little additions, just encouraging phrases that I'm want to keep in mind, keep to the front of my mind. So I'm just writing those down and making a decorative page with some of those things. They're kind of affirmations, just nice simple phrases. They're easy to remember. And I thought, if I'm going to leave a legacy of any written word for my children, besides any poetry or books, then I might write that this kind of thing I'd be more inclined to leave that for them. So there's so many ways to do journaling. It can be really, really simple. You don't need fancy, expensive books or anything like that. Like, I just buy a $2 exercise book, like a school book. Has done me very well over the years. But if someone gives me a lovely journal, then I'll take that too. Hardcover journal is always a beautiful thing. And isn't it the best just to open up a fresh book, smell the pages, and now you've got this blank canvas in front of you. Just to mix it up, sometimes I'm sitting here in my chair in the morning doing my journaling. Sometimes I'll go for a walk if the weather's nice and sit outside and journal. I've got a lovely neighbourhood with lovely, beautiful spots by the water that I can sit. And so, yeah, I like to, sometimes I'll sit in my garden, whatever I'm feeling for that day. But really, what I'm saying is, you do you. You find a way that you're happy with, a book that's available to you, and I would recommend you give it a try. It's a really centering, calming thing to do in the morning, or even at the end of the day, to brain dump all your thoughts that are whirling around, before you settle down for bed. I think that's a good idea too. So tell me in the comments if you've journaled and what sort of journaling you do. I'd love to hear about it. But for now, I'm happy for you to, grab a cup of tea or coffee or whatever your drink of choice and sit back and listen to another letter from Rachel. This one's called News at Last. February 27th, 1854. News at last. My dearest Annie and Bidulph, I do not think you can have the least idea of the delight it was to get your parcel with such quantities of letters. It did not arrive till late Saturday afternoon, for Vince Wood did not arrive on Friday as we expected, and the revilings bestowed on him in consequence would have overwhelmed him if he had only heard them. I was practising when Etta came into the drawing-room with the parcel in her hand. I have never exactly discovered how it came, but there it was. We cut the string in a moment with my old knife, though Mr. Boyce suggested we had better untie the knot. And then we saw the delightful collection of letters and the journal. It was just post time, and I hope you will properly appreciate my self-denial in rushing into the other room before I had opened a single letter and stamping and sending off those directed to others. Then we sat down to read and finish the letters before tea, and after we read the journal aloud. I cannot think why Annie made any excuses for it. It was a capital journal and most interesting to us. It was very good and kind of her to keep it, for I am sure it must be a very difficult thing to do on board ship among so many people. The wooden pair arrived in high preservation. What a curious thing it is. I suppose it is not intended to be eaten. Thank you, dear Annie, for the beautiful collar you sent me. Indeed, I shall not put it away after my old fashion. You must forget and forgive the crochet collar, which I am afraid I did treat so, but this one is really beautiful. You have arranged and sewn on the honiton so tastefully, and it is not the least larger than some collars I am wearing now, so I shall be sure to wear it thankfully. I am sorry for one thing, though. I am quite convinced that you must have put all the honiton on it and not kept any for yourself. February 28th. All letters from here must be dull to yours. Everything you can tell about yourselves and your new country is so interesting. Thank you, dear Bidulph, for your long letter to me. We were very much amused by it. I should have been very uneasy about you if I had had the least idea the Great Britain contemplated an exploration of the South Pole, for the sudden change from great heat to great cold was enough to make anyone ill, and especially you. However, Annie says you are well, and we were most thankful to hear it. I rejoice to think that you had a pilot suit to keep out the cold, but Annie was not the least prepared for it, and I cannot think how she got on. I am sure she must have had chilblains and all sorts of cold discomforts. However, you seem to have enjoyed the voyage in spite of everything, and some of it must have been very amusing, crossing the line, for instance. I am glad Bidulph escaped a drenching. He must be quite a sailor to climb to the masthead. We seem now to know all your friends on board, thanks to the letters and Annie's journal. I should like to see Mr. Gray. How kind and pleasant he seems to have been. Mr. Boyce wrote to him yesterday to thank him for sending the parcel and to ask him when he would sail again, as we are going to send you a budget of letters, etc. It is too good an opportunity to let slip. If the Great Britain makes such a good passage again, I dare say you will get them nearly as soon as this. Melbourne must be rather a nasty place from your description of it, and the prices of everything seem enormous. Fancy, £3.10 for 3 unfurnished rooms. I only wish we could transport Backwell House out there. Our fortune would be made. I'm very glad you have such comfortable lodgings, and so cheap too. You would not have got them for less in England. It must be very pleasant for you to be together in the mornings and to have a sort of house of your own, but I forget that it is 3 months ago that you wrote, and that you were probably settled elsewhere by this time. I hope Bidulph's advertisement is answered, and that he is deep in the mysteries of cows and sheep. March 1st. It is a lovely day, fine and bright and warm as summer. We are sitting in the dining room with the window open, and don't be too much surprised, the blind drawn up, and the rays of the sun falling full upon Etta's mahogany table, and upon a great plate full of primroses, dressed with moss, which I brought home from some of my walks. Mr. Boyce is walking about outside, superintending baker's operations, which I hope may be rather hastened thereby, for the field, as we call the lower part of the garden below the banks, has not been cleared yet, but lies in its primitive state of brambles and stumps and pools of water. I think that by the end of next summer it may be in order. Mr. Boyce has felt himself so much encouraged by the fine weather that he has just written off for the paperers to come and finish papering the house. I hoped they would not be here till April, when I should be gone to Exeter, for as Etta's room and the dressing room have to be done, I must move into the little room with bag and baggage, dried plants and all. Besides which, I am convinced that Etta will take the opportunity of turning the house out of window to clean it, and of all minor afflictions, house cleaning is the worst. Think of all the carpets up and the floors flooded and tables with their legs in the air and chairs piled up in towers, and Etta reigning queen of the confusion, for she is in her glory when cleaning is going on. Mr. Boyce says he is sure she was born with a duster in her hand. We've been walking about a great deal lately, or rather I should say I have, for I generally take long solitary rambles while Mr. Boyce and Etta make a solemn march down to the turnpike on Sheffield Green and back again, the former not feeling equal to long walks. I am very fond of exploring the innumerable paths in Sheffield woods, but I do not believe anybody knows them all, or ever will. I am not the only person, it seems, who is fond of exercise in the neighbourhood, for Cherryman went to see her little boy the other day, and on her return she informed us that she had asked someone to accompany her home, because a woman walks on the Sheffield road, and on further inquiry as to what objection there could be to any respectable female using that mode of progression, it turned out that several veracious witnesses had seen an apparition disappear among the bushes by Ormiston's cottage, nearly opposite Colonel Cavis's gate. You must remember the place. We heard this story at night, and the next morning at breakfast Etta and I were laughing about it and wondering whether Cherryman really believed it, when I saw Mr. Boyce looking very much the reverse of pleased, but I thought that perhaps his breakfast had not agreed with him. However, he got up and rang the bell for prayers, a thing which by no means happens every day, and after reading the chapter he began an extemporary commentary on it. He talked about ignorant superstition and said very gravely, "I understand there's been an apparition seen." Human nature could endure no more. Etta, I and Cherryman all laughed, and Etta out loud. Mr. Boyce was, of course, extremely angry, broke off and went and shut himself into his study, leaving us all divided between laughter and consternation. And Elizabeth, a sort of human cormorant, who helps Cherryman with her mouth wider open than usual. I'm very glad you kept clear of the gambling club, Bedolph. Not that I should ever have suspected you of playing high, but yet the excitement of it must be very fascinating on board ship where there is so little to do. I shall be very anxious to hear your account of Wollongong in your next letter. I think Lyndon's establishment must be a queer one from all accounts, and I hope you will not belong to it. The stars are, no doubt, very beautiful and desirable objects in themselves, but it is too much of a good thing to be able to make astronomical observations through the roof of your bedroom. I am very glad Bedolph is going to farm. I am sure you will like it far better than business. When I come out, I expect I shall find you in a bush farm, galloping after cattle with a long whip and quite expert in branding unruly ones. I'm certainly going to Australia, but whether this year or next, I don't know. It will be Annie's birthday the day after tomorrow. With my kindest love, I wish her many happy returns of it. I had no room to write about it in my yesterday's letter. Do you remember Annie's last birthday? We walked along the cliffs to that sunny field by Turret Castle and found the first primroses. What do you think of our being at war again? For I suppose it is inevitable. I hope the Russians will get well beaten, and I think it pretty certain with such enemies as France and England. I saw an article in the paper about the defences of Australia, which appear to amount to little. If they call out a force of volunteers, do not join them. You are far too good to be shot at. Goodbye, my dearest Annie and Bedolph. You will soon hear again, I expect, as of course we shall write in the parcel, and the Great Britain sails this month. How I wish you were here to take a walk with me in the woods this lovely afternoon. You don't know how I long to see you again. Well, perhaps I shall before long. Till then, believe me, your own affectionate sister, Rachel Henning. P.S. March 31st. I like the account Bedolph gave of the country in his last letter very much. I think Wollongong must be beautiful, and that a farm in that neighbourhood would be anything but unpleasant. I believe I shall come out with Amy after all, or if I did not this year, I certainly should next year, but very likely it will be this. It would be very pleasant to be together again, and I should delight in a warm climate. We are in great confusion this week as the house is being papered, and we are fairly blockaded, the enemy being in possession of the passages, staircase, and all the rooms except the drawing room, in which Mrs. lives, as Elizabeth remarked, and 2 bedrooms. We usually get out of the drawing room window and in again by the front door to go upstairs. Mrs. room is the only one done. It has a handsome crimson paper, but the pattern is too large, so that it makes the room look low. The 2 other bedrooms and the drawing room were papered last autumn. We are having a most lovely spring to make amends for the sharp winter. The woods are full of wood anemones, wood sorrel and primroses, and all our Winslow flowers are out in the garden. Hyacinths, polyanthesis, and hepaticus. Mr. Boyce spends lots of money upon shrubs, and new loads of them constantly arrive, but the field is not made yet, nor do I think it ever will be. Rachel Henning. And these are just some of the journals that I've got that are empty and waiting for me to use. All different shapes and sizes.